Hello and welcome to Rock, Paper, Shotgun. My name is Colin Mahern and I'm excited. I'm excited because these monthly lists often highlight the 10 games that you should keep an eye on over the next month. But I've bumped it up to 12 for August. Because, if you haven't heard, video games are back, baby. And they might disappear again at any moment, so please just let me celebrate the fact that there are more than 10 computer games coming out over the next 4 and a bit weeks. A lot of countries are getting a bit farther away from that virus with every passing day, allowing developers to get back to making the games, thus allowing us to resume playing the things they make. I say a lot of countries because have you seen those UK numbers? Woof. If you're not ready to step outside your front door yet, hopefully there's something in this list that can keep you entertained over the next few weeks. So let's crack on then. Here are the top 12 video games coming to PC in August 2021. The original Psychonauts is one of the best games I've played in 2021. I missed it the first time around and I was keen to give it a go before the second one launched, and I am so glad I did. The luchadors of Black Velvetopia, the tabletop game of Waterloo World, the G-men of the Milkman Conspiracy. It all holds up, except the meat circus, obviously. I now can't wait to see what Double Fine have done with the long-awaited sequel. While I'm relatively confident the weird and wonderful minds behind this 3D puzzle platformer will have the puzzling aspect down, I am a little concerned about the platforming part. The first game did come out 15 years ago though, so here's hoping this follow-up has more fluid and precise movement. Also, the first game only occasionally dipped its toe into the mental health pool, whereas Psychonauts 2 appears to cannonball right into the deep end. If it balances that with some wonderfully kooky levels, imaginative abilities, and a half-decent jump, this could very easily end up being on many GOTY lists come December. With Humankind, it's pretty clear that Sega are fluttering their eyelashes at everyone who has rinsed Civ 6 for all it's worth. But I'd be doing this 4X game a disservice to position it as a mere clone of Firaxis' long-running series. Instead of leading one group of people from day dot up to modern times, you choose different cultures at the dawning of each era. Also, there's only one way to win in Humankind: fame. If you want to live forever, you need to complete objectives in every era of the game, reach a certain level of influence, build a specific number of districts, and so on. The combat is pretty different too. It's difficult to sum up in a sentence or two, so just know that RPS's strategy man, Nate Crowley, told me he's into it, and his endorsement will do me just fine. You'll be able to see for yourself whether Humankind is worthy of the Civ Killer moniker that some have bestowed upon it when it comes out in the middle of this month. Zombies no longer concern Dean Hall. After all, aliens are the real threat. Specifically, all the beasts that'll have you quaking in your little space boots in co-op survival game Icarus. Unlike DayZ, Rocketworks' first game is session-based, so while you'll be visiting an alien world, your resource-gathering trips are time-restricted. You can go it alone if you like, but you'll also be able to bring along 7 other pals on your expeditions if you'd prefer company. While Icarus is indeed launching this month, it is worth keeping in mind that this is the first chapter of something Rocketworks have said will be a multi-year kind of deal. The first cohort, the game's first chapter, is quite earthy looking, which might disappoint those looking to take down some 6-legged land trout. But Hall has said in interviews that the more familiar setting is by design. Draw you in, and then hit you with the Goro fish in chapter 3, I guess. If you're looking to get in on the ground floor with Icarus, you can play the first cohort in about 2 weeks' time. This narrative-driven adventure game has been on tons of most anticipated lists for years, but we'll finally get to play it this August. Developed by Luis Antonio, 12 Minutes sees you assume the role of a man trying to break out of a Groundhog Day-like 12-minute time loop. The majority of this game plays out in a young couple's televisionless sitting room, where you'll be combining items, chatting to your wife, and getting roughed up by Willem Dafoe. 12 Minutes cast is pure Hollywood. The Speed 2 cruise control star is joined by Wimbledon's James McAvoy and Peter Rabbit's Daisy Ridley. We'll see whether all that talent equals a stellar video game in just a few weeks' time. In the middle of August, we'll get to see whether Skatebird is more than just an excuse for games journalists to use Tony Hawk, am I right, for article straplines. While I haven't dumped tons of hours into the most recent demo, I'm hopeful that there's something in this arcade skateboarding game. It plays like a more forgiving pro skater, but Skatebird also appears to take inspiration from Tony's later games, Underground and what came after, by including a story mode. Fingers crossed the big tricks and narrative feels result in a game that's been worth the multi-year wait. On the topic of being patient, the first King's Bounty was released in 1990. I know a lot of people are very excited to get their hands on the sequel they thought would never come, but there are a few of us that missed the first one too. Personally, being a toddler at the time was a difficult hurdle to get over. If you're interested in jumping in at this point, I'd imagine you'll be alright. Given that 30 years have passed, King's Bounty 2 will probably be a teeny bit different to the original. You move around a map in third person like one of those fancy and modern RPGs. What you say to NPCs will affect your moral alignment, thus making some army units stronger and others weaker, depending on their outlook on the world. And combat has been tinkered with too. It's still the old turn-based hexagonal battlefield hijinks, but your terrain matters in King's Bounty 2. It sounds like developer 1C Entertainment has tried to appease both generations. We'll see if they've hit the mark at the end of this month. This 40-year-old franchise's place in video games is super higgledy-piggledy. For every Alien Isolation, there have been 4 Aliens Colonial Marines. I'm trying my best to avoid comparing Fireteam Elite with Gearbox's mistake, but it's hard. The upcoming game also hangs its helmet on action rather than horror. You, either solo or as part of a 3-person team, head to LV-895 to absolutely rip apart some xenomorphs. It sounds like success depends on how well you link up with your teammates too, given that each character has their own abilities and perks. Early previews have been relatively positive, so perhaps this'll turn out to be the game you wanted that other one to be. Looking for a mayhem-filled game that's reminiscent of GTA 2? You are. That's handy because the next few sentences wouldn't resonate as much if you weren't. Glitchpunk is a top-down action game that has everything you are in the market for. Shooting, driving, gangs, cops, and hacking. What did you expect? Its name ends in punk. The trailers have definitely been heavy on the bombast, but developer Dark Lord say it isn't just about endless shootouts. On top of scrambling the circuitry of NPCs and objects in the world, Glitchpunk is a branching narrative that promises to tackle some heavy subjects. You won't get to see everything this game has to offer this month though, as it is being released through early access. However, the first city is said to have around 8 hours of murderous fun times, and the second location is apparently coming in early to mid-September. Narrative-driven, procedurally generated run games aren't terribly common, making Road 96 a very intriguing prospect. You start each playthrough as a teenager looking to travel thousands of miles to your country's border. During your journey, you'll come across a host of different characters, but the order of the scenarios will be different on each trip. So, while the destination is the same for everyone, my story should be different to yours. While I'm definitely into the concept, it does sound very ambitious. But if they can pull it off, I am 100% into it. The first Death Trash post on rockpapershotgun.com was published in October 2015. So stick this one on the years in the making pile with everything else coming out in August. This old school Fallout-like RPG will be available as an early access game at first, with a full launch expected within the next 12 months. The final game will be open world, but if you jump on this month, you'll get the first chapter with more story and locations being added in updates. Now that all the housekeeping is out of the way, this looks pretty fucked up, doesn't it? But in a good, grungy way. That Pirates of the Caribbean looking bastard is a real standout. You can also vom on command. It is called Death Trash, to be fair. If you were one of the many that fell for the game's mixture of mankiness and real-time combat during the last Steam demo extravaganza, you can get on the grimy bandwagon on the 5th. Now for something completely different. Hoel looks like an interactive Ghibli movie. So, you're this bipedal hat thing, and presumably you spend the entire game marveling at the beautiful environments you pass as you go from left to right. Everything about this just seems so pleasant. The orchestral score, the non-violent encounters, the hand-painted characters, all utterly delightful. It's not a passive experience by any means though. There will be some platforming challenges and light puzzling to drive you through the playable cartoon. Seems like a nice way to spend an afternoon indoors while the world burns around you. Bliss. I have no idea how Amazon have been able to turn this one around. New World was the butt of many jokes only last year. Yet, this MMORPG had 200,000 concurrent players during its closed beta. Our own Ed Thorne previewed it a few weeks ago and came away with a hankering for more. He especially loved the focus on crafting, saying that this game has as much in common with Valheim as it does WoW. But there is plenty of fighting to be done here as well, with New World's monsters posing a threat to those who want to focus on the RPG aspect, and the 50v50 battle mode giving an outlet to anyone that wants to engage in the MMO portion of the game. There's obviously more to this than I can fit in this section of the video, but if you're tired of your current MMO of choice, perhaps you should consider, and I'm still a bit surprised I'm saying this, New World. Whatever you end up playing over August, I hope you have a lovely time with it. But do tell, what new games, if any, are you looking forward to getting your hands on this month? Want to silence some mind sensors in Psychonauts 2? Eager to rule in Humankind? Or do you plan on trying to survive the alien wilderness in Icarus? Let us know in the comments. As always, thank you very much for watching, you absolute star. But if you come away from this video knowing one thing, know this. For all of your PC gaming needs, keep it on rockpapershotgun.com.